Learning the blues is a great starting point for any guitar player. After all, the blues laid the foundation for Western music as we know it. But a lot of people seem to think that it's an overly simplistic style of playing, but it's really not. In fact, there's a difference between playing the blues and really playing the blues. However, there's a way that professional guitarists play the blues that I think lends way more to its authenticity and is definitely worth paying attention to. So today I'm going to share with you the professional hallmarks of blues guitar playing. But be sure to stick around till the very end of the lesson because I've got a free gift for you and your guitar that you're both going to love. From what I've observed over the years growing up in Texas, not just playing the blues, playing blues clubs with older musicians that really showed me the ropes, but also getting to just be around professional blues guitarists in both Texas and in LA and now in Nashville, I've noticed a lot of patterns in a way that these professional guitarists play the blues, and I really try to pick up on them. And the funny thing is, it really boils down to some very simple principles. So let's talk about the first one, which is really nailing down the 12-bar blues. Most guitar players who play the blues or even just dabble in it are familiar with the 12-bar blues. It's the very foundation that most blues music is written on, and it's just really easy to pick up and also duplicate when you're either writing your own blues songs or even just jamming your own blues jam. But there's a certain depth to your musicianship that really comes from having the 12-bar blues like in your bones. Just knowing that framework so well that whatever kind of situation that you plug yourself into, if it involves a 12-bar blues jam, you're going to know exactly what to do for that entire time, no matter how many times it repeats. And it's something that I invite any guitarist to learn, whether or not you're trying to learn the blues at all. Just being able to count. That's really what it all comes down to. And if you want to work on getting the 12-bar blues down, what I recommend you do is throw on a blues tune and don't even touch your guitar. Just count your way through it. Now, not all blues is written in the 12-bar format, but most of it is. So if we're talking most famous blues songs, let's say, there's a good chance that it's written in the 12-bar format. And here's what I want you to do. When you throw on that record and you count, I want you to have every first count of every measure reflect the number bar that you're in. So for example, if we're starting off, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12, 2, 3, 4 before it repeats. This sets you on track for building the habit of just having that steady pulse internally to where after a while you don't even have to think about it anymore and you can just kind of feel the 12-bar blues. And you won't even need a backing track or a band to manifest it. You can just start playing and you'll play within that format subconsciously. But it really comes down to just counting along when you're listening to your favorite blues records. Or just get on YouTube and just throw some random ones on and then just start counting. Kind of quiz yourself. It's fun, you know? But after a while, like I said, it'll just get so ingrained in you that you just kind of count automatically whether you're conscious of it or not. And it just comes through in how you play. So that's the first principle, is just getting the 12-bar blues down until it's just practically a part of your DNA, right? This is how you're going to understand the blues on such a level that's going to come through in your rhythm and lead playing. And it segues perfectly into the second principle, which is being able to keep good timing, or as a lot of professionals say, playing in the pocket. Basically what that means is no matter what you're doing, whether you're playing by yourself or in a band, you are just locked in. That timing is just there, right? And it's pretty easy to see how that first principle leads into it, right? Having the 12-bar blues down to where it's just internalized, right? And then apply a good sense of timing to where you're just locked in the pocket with that 12-bar blues format. And it doesn't matter if you're playing in a band or playing by yourself. Let's take, for example, what I did at the very beginning of the video. I played through a 12-bar blues that was mostly improvised, really. I just kind of had a key and a framework in mind, and then I just stuck to some very, very simple lead stuff, and then just made sure that I locked in the chord changes and followed through with that 12-bar blues. So I'll show you the chords I was using. It was an A9, a D9, and an E7. Essentially the 1, 4, 5, the three chords necessary that you'll hear in a 12-bar blues. And we're in the key of A, right? But I wasn't doing like a constant driving, cowboy blues thing. Like, I wasn't doing that. In fact, I was just doing little chord stabs. And this is where my point of staying in the pocket really comes into play. Because if you're doing a driving constant rhythm, it's easier to keep time because you constantly have a reference point, right? But in what I was doing at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of space. So it really comes down to just letting that internal timing take over. So what I was doing, I won't play any of the lead stuff yet. We'll get into that in our third principle. But with just the chords, it was like this, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right? That's what I was doing, just these chord stabs. Kind of like something you'd hear a horn section play on a great blues record, especially like in Chicago blues. A lot of horns in there, right? So let's break down these chords one by one. Let's start with the A9 chord. You take your first finger and you're going to play the 4th fret of the A string. Your third finger is going to play the 5th fret of the D string. Your second finger is going to play the 4th fret of the G string. So it's kind of like a D chord shape, right? Like when you're playing a D chord, you're doing the same thing up here, but then we're going to add our pinky on the 5th fret of the B string. And this chord is the same as this. You know, it's pretty common to play like 9th chords in this particular shape, which you'll see when we get to the D9 chord, the 4 chord, right? But that 1 chord, this is how an A9 would look. And your root note, A, is right here. So it's like we're starting on the 3rd. And we got all the notes necessary to make up that A9 chord. So that's what that looks like, all right? That's our 1 chord. Our 4 chord, a D9 chord, is like this. We're going to take our second finger, put it on the 5th fret of the A string. Our first finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the D string. All right? And then we have 2 options here. We can either use our 3rd and 4th fingers to play the 5th fret on the G and B strings, or you can bar with your 3rd finger like this. Just kind of gently mash it on just the G and the B strings. You can do that, or you can do it like this. Where it kind of almost looks like a G chord, right? Almost, but just like a more squeezed in G chord. And that's the D9 chord. That's our 4 chord. So here's our 1 chord. Here's our 4 chord. For our 5 chord, I went with the E7. Now, you technically could play an E9, which is the same exact shape as the D9, brought up 2 frets. But I just kind of like how the E7 is voiced comparatively with the D9 and the A9, because they're all sharing this note here, right? So, and then, all right, and so you can hear how these changing chords, how the tonality shifts the feel of this single note here, which is nice. I like that. So let's go ahead and go over this E7 shape. So this is our 5 chord, E7. We take our 3rd finger, it's going to go on the 7th fret of the A string. 2nd finger's on the 6th fret of the D string. Pinky's on the 7th fret of the G string. Then our 1st finger is going to go on the 5th fret of the B string. So all 3 of these chords pretty much occupy the middle 4 strings here, A, D, G, and B. All right? So that's all you got to worry about. We're not worried about any of the E strings, right? Not the low E or the high E, just these middle strings right here. And we're only going to be employing these in little chord stabs, right? So when we're counting them, right, if we're going to do the 12-bar blues thing, it'll go something like this. And of course, we got to add a swing feel to it, so the count is going to be like 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 2, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 4, a 2, and here we go. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 2, a 2, a 3, a 4, 3, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 4, a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 6, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 7, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 8, a 2, a 3, a 4, 9, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 10, a 2, a 3, a 4, 11, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 12, a 2, a 3, a 4. So that was hard. Trying to like keep time, count it out, and make sure I was making any sense at all, right? But I think I made it through. So just to show you how sparse those little chord stabs were, right? And of course, there's going to be more that we can do to fill in the space. We're not just trying to emulate a horn section. We're trying to apply a little bit more of a full package, especially as just playing solo guitar, right? But that's kind of the timing, you know? 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And as you can hear, I counted through 12 bars. So that was an entire 12-bar blues that I just played. And of course, when you're practicing this, if this is something that you're new to, you don't have to go straight into the tempo that I'm using here. Obviously, you want to start slow and give yourself time to think about your moves as you're doing them. And that might be painfully slow at first, but it's important to just get the consistency down and then over time start to gradually increase your timing until you reach a tempo like what I just did. Oh, and by the way, if you're getting value out of this lesson, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out and it lets us know that you'd like to see lessons just like this one, which we'd be more than happy to give to you. So thanks in advance, and let's get back to business. And the third and final principle that professionals use when playing the blues is to make the notes feel good. Whether you're playing a handful of notes or a bunch of notes, they all just gotta feel right. What this means is there's no room for wankery, right? Or just overplaying. I mean, you have the freedom to do that, but it doesn't necessarily make you look like a professional blues player. And I'm not trying to talk like I'm some kind of ultimate authority on pro blues players. Everything I'm telling you is something I've observed from players much better than myself that I respect and look up to, and some of which I'm lucky to actually be friends with, that I've really gotten to learn firsthand from, and it's just ingrained in me. So consider me a messenger from having gone through all of that experience and all that observation. And these are all based on patterns that I've noticed. This is something that these principles are all shared with these guitar players, you know? And this is also true for legendary blues guitar players. Of course, these professionals emulate the people that have blazed the trail before them, you know? You name it. B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert Collins, Robin Trower, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, you name it, they all do it. Now you may ask, what does it mean for notes to feel good? Like, what is that? Is that even a thing? That'd be a good question, because it is something that goes into that sort of intangible, you know it when you hear it, and it's something that you can really feel, but it's hard to quantify, right? But if I were to try to quantify it, it would really come down to this. The notes just have to be in the pocket, right? Your timing's got to be good. So it harkens back to the second principle, which I would say, you know, even though it's in the middle, it's probably the most important overall. And since it doesn't matter what quantity of notes you're using to make them feel good, let's see what we can do with just a handful of notes. Let's use 4 to be exact. In fact, if we're in the key of A like we did in the example with the chords, let's just do this middle pentatonic hotbox right here. 5th fret, 7th fret on D, 5th fret, 7th fret on G. So those 4 notes, but within that little framework, we can do all kinds of things. Bends, vibratos, slides, all that kind of stuff. Anything's fair game within that little box there. So those 4 notes are all we're gonna need to use to see how we can make them feel good. So if I were to recall what I did at the beginning of the video, I was combining these 4 notes, these specific 4-note box here, right, with those chords, right? It's all kind of coming together now. And I started out with a line. Pretty sure that's what it was, right? Something real simple, something that moves, right? So if I were to count it out, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. There you go, it's all coming together. So, like, I'll stop myself right there, but you can see where I'm going with this, right? Just using a handful of notes in combination with those simple chord stabs, with all that space that is fine. That's not like dead space. It's not free-form space. It's controlled space because it's all within the 12-bar blues format. And I'm really making a point to stay within the pocket so that you could tap your foot, bob your head, snap your fingers, whatever, but follow along with what I'm doing rhythmically. And those 4 notes give you the perfect opportunity for playing lines in between those chord stabs. So you can make it a little more driving and less open as far as space goes, but there's still very much a lot of space. So I did that little lead-in lick. Four chord, right? Back to the 1 chord. 5 chord. You know, then we get to the end. You know, like you can choose to end it like however you want. If you want to just do 1 round of 12 bars, then you can. Something like that, you know. Another thing, actually, what I just did there, that little sort of 1 fret slide, you know, slide out and back. You can do, add some color, you know. So if I were to add that to the mix, it'd be like I like that. You know, and I mean, you could keep it going, because that's the thing about the 12-bar blues, is you can basically copy paste, you know, those 12 bars as many times as you want. Then when you choose to end it, that's when you can kind of freeform it, or you can do like a trash can ending, you know, where it's just like, you know, you can bring the one chord up a fret, like sharpen it, and then like do that kind of thing. I mean, it's fair game at that point, but as long as you stay locked in, right? You got that 12-bar blues foundation just inside your bones. You got that 12-bar blues foundation just like ingrained within you. And then you stay within the pocket. Your timing is good. I mean, being able to tap your foot while you're playing is a big part of it. And I know that that's a huge challenge for a lot of guitar players. Believe me, it took me a long time to just line up my body with what I was playing. I get that. There's definitely a learning curve there. But that's why you want to start simple. And if you really just start with, you know, tapping your foot or bobbing your head or just moving your body in some kind of way, like just a slight kind of groove, right? Then you can just start playing, and then after a while, you won't even think about it, it's just something that you do. And by staying in that pocket, whatever notes you play are going to automatically feel good, whether you're playing 4 notes or 100 notes. So I invite you to start with the examples that I just gave you before you start expanding outward and throwing in different chords or, you know, more of, let's say, the minor pentatonic scale. Don't get ahead of yourself. Start with the foundation. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with just those simple chords and the simple 4-note box that we've worked with. There really is a lot you can do. And so focus on getting the most out of that first. Then once you do that, you've laid this foundation that like will set you up for everything that you do from now on within the blues. Will just have that same kind of professional feel to it, because you'll have the 12-bar blues down like the back of your hand. Your timing will be locked in, and you'll be making all those notes feel good no matter how many that you use. Oh, and by the way, everything that we have just gone over is movable to whatever key you want to use it in. All you have to do is this. Find the root note on the low E string. So in this case, we're in the key of A, right? 5th fret of the low E string. And so I found that A9 chord by starting off, you know, 1 fret below and 1 string down, and then filled out the chord. And then, you know, the rest of them kind of all were anchored around this sort of central point. And then I had that pentatonic box, right? If I wanted to move this to, let's say, the key of C, all right, and find, which happens to be right here, the root note C on the low E string is the 8th fret. I would just, remember, go 1 string down, 1 fret below, and then form that. Now I have a C9 chord. And then the 4 chord, all right, which is an F9 chord. Then I have, and then the 5 chord, G7 right here, F9, C9. And then that pentatonic box would be right here, 8th fret, 10th fret on D and G. So if I wanted to play the exact same thing, just move it to a different key, that's all I'd have to do. But if I were to move keys, I would try to do different things, like, you know, like a... I know that sounds real similar, but just make slight changes just to keep it interesting. So now you know what professional blues guitarists keep in mind when they're playing the blues in order to make it sound the most authentic and the most musical. And you also know the perfect cut and paste formula of using a 4-note box in tandem with 3 blues chords that'll work in any key. And we touched on moving keys just a little bit, but if you want to take it even further, I got just the thing that's going to show you how to take what we learned today and play it in any key, even the hard ones. And not just that, it'll teach you how to confidently solo in any key as well. And it just so happens to be my gift to you for making it to the end of this video. And here it is. This is a free lesson on how to instantly solo in any key. It's going to show you how to comfortably and confidently navigate the fretboard no matter what key you're playing in, rain or shine, lead or rhythm. And it's my gift to you, absolutely free. Just be sure to click here to claim your copy or check that link in the description box. We've all heard that the blues is a feeling, but it's something that really shines through when you play it properly. And if you apply what we've learned today, you're going to be able to play the blues like the best of them.